are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I am Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And today we are doing an All-22 review of the Cowboys' Week 16 win over the Washington football team. Before we do that, though, Landon, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Again, we talked about this. This was a celebration. It was a fun day to watch. I literally just got on after watching the Sounds of the Sideline video, which is always so much fun. So, just good times in Cowboys land right now, and I'm enjoying it.
This is one of my favorite films to watch all season long. Just everywhere you look, there's good things happen. Martin Scorsese would be proud of this film there, Landon.
Yes, he would. He would.
It was that violent too on one side of the ball.
He would definitely submit this as Goodfellas Part 2, to be honest. So.
I know how much you hate Martin Scorsese.
That is not what you should have been getting from that conversation. We will have a whole separate conversation and a whole separate podcast about my love for Martin Scorsese.
You're so trendy. You don't like Scorsese. You don't like Tarantino. I get it. I understand.
Give me a break. Give me a break with this guy. We'll have if we have to have a whole separate podcast about that, we will, guys.
Yeah,
we'll have a whole separate
Locked On movies. There you go. All right, let's talk about the defense, Landon, because it's really my biggest takeaways here. And I want to start with a guy that we've actually talked about on the two shows before today, Kelvin Joseph. The speed in which he played at and how confident he was in this game was incredible. What did you see from him in this one?
Yeah, it's always fun when you see guys, and this is one of the fun things about going out to training camp. But if you guys ever get a chance, you should do it because one of the fun things about it is that you get to see these guys in training camp and kind of get a feel for their game then. And then for some of these guys, they may not play as regularly as the guys who play regularly on the team. Some of these down roster folks or younger players like Kelvin Joseph where they're developing. So you're going to see them. It's just a matter of when, right? So all throughout camp, you watch Joseph and he just looks like he belongs. And I think the thing that really stood out then and still stands out now is two specific things to me, really. It's his foot quickness, his ability to change direction, and he is just as easy a mover as you're going to find as a defensive back. He just has an incredible movement skills, and not just straight line speed, which is important, but the ability to short area quickness is just off the charts. And what that allows him to do is stay patient and press, stay patient at the line of scrimmage, and doesn't get beat a lot. And you saw that a lot in tape. And then the other thing that I think really is important for young players to even be able to get on the field is a level of physicality and willingness in the running game. Because, it's easy, one thing when you get young corners out there, they have huge targets on their backs. I mean, no matter more so than, defensive linemen or sometimes linebackers or safeties, but seriously, cornerbacks, young cornerbacks, more than anybody else. When they come on the field, the quarterbacks recognize that they're on the field. The offensive coordinators recognize them on the field. They want to take advantage of it. And the two ways they do it, obviously, is first try to test the guy in the pass game, see if he can cover. If you can do that, then you try to run the ball at them and see how willing they are to put up against the run. There were several different plays that Joseph was showing more than just a willingness to make the tackle and be physical, but also an adeptness to, sort through the trash, find an angle that works, get to the ball carrier and bring him down. And I think having those two abilities as a young corner, I have no doubts. I mean, in the long term that he is going to be a good player, a solid player. He's going to improve. But those two traits by themselves are enough to get you on the field early in your career on defense and not have the defense coordinator worry that you're going to be exposed.
Just thought he was really good. It kind of expected, though, when you kind of slow play these rookies. They're not having to go through this big learning curve early in the season. They get lots of practice time. It's one of the benefits of having a deep team is you're not forcing guys onto the field. So I thought he was really good. The other takeaway that I had on defense, Landon, and we talk about this every week, but just the overall team speed that the Cowboys have this year compared to other years is noticeable. Like these guys were flying around the field, and it makes a big difference because if you're just hustling to the ball and you're flying to the football, you're going to make plays, and we've seen that play out all season long.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it helps with turnovers. We've talked about that before. You're not going to get a turnover unless you're near the ball. You're not going to get near the ball unless you're flying to the ball. And I think that's really important. I think the thing that we kind of forget where team speed is important, we talk all the time about third downs and about getting off the field. I think the thing that was really important is the team speed has really helped get our team or get their teams into third downs. It's the team speed on first and second to quickly shut down short passes, to run to the football in the run game. There's been a couple of weeks in a row where the Cowboys have shown that if they can get into third and long situations, that it's pretty much lights out for the offense. But they have to get there first, and getting there first requires the ability to get to the ball carrier, bring him down in a timely manner. And again, it's a game of inches, and especially on first and second down, the ability to make those stops before they get that extra 2 yards. And if they get those extra 2 yards on first and second down, that becomes 3 extra yards. And suddenly that's the difference between 3rd and 4 versus 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. And then, the difference between 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 8 is how much you can deploy your incredible pass rush group. So I think the team speed has shown up in a lot of different ways. Obviously the turnovers like we talked about, but and more specifically, I think what I've noticed these last few weeks is just now that they've been able to have Gregory back, move Parsons back into linebacker a little bit on early downs, the team speed is just so incredible that they're able to get these teams in bad long third down situations, even if they're completing passes, even if they're having some positive plays in the run game early in downs.
And I want to continue to talk about that pass rush because I think you and I have a similar note after watching the All-22. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar, Built Bar. It's filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with great flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fats, but high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. There's so many great flavors. You'll have a hard time choosing. There's peanut butter brownie. There's double chocolate, cherry, brownie chunk. Built Bar gives you that extra feel you need, whether it's watching college bowl games this weekend, staying up late for New Year's. Go to BuiltBar.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, Landon, let's talk about the defense some more. You and I both noticed that Demarcus Lawrence rushing inside at defensive tackle not only allows you to get Gregory and Parsons rushing the quarterback, but he's just really good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's my takeaway. He's just good.
Yeah, that's a really good take. And that's the thing about it is that we all knew that he could do it, right? Like we all knew that. I mean, he had the ability to do it. I mean, I think there's just being able to do it is one thing. I mean, it's really not an easy task for these defensive ends to knock inside simply because the game's more violent. Things happen a lot quicker often. You've seen other guys that have done it and not had the level of success. So obviously this was part of the plan that everyone had in mind when Gregory came back. Well, I mean, let's just put it this way. When all three of those guys were available, Parsons, Gregory, and D-Law, we knew that was a potential, right? That we could see that kind of lineup with D-Law kicked inside and then Parsons and Gregory screaming off the edge. But we didn't really know exactly how well we knew it would be useful because it would get all three of those guys on the field at once, but we didn't really know how good D-Law would actually be at the skill of rushing from the inside. But his hand technique, which is, probably the best in the league, or if not the best in the league up there, it really translated so well to playing against guards and centers because he's just able to get around and slither around guys. The guys aren't able to get their hands on him. And even, as we saw in the game on Sunday, when he isn't able to get there, he's such a smart and heady player that he understands the concepts that are behind him. And then he just gets back and he puts his hands into the throwing lane and he's, you add that plus the fact that he's so crazy athletic that he was able to come down with that ball and then return it for a touchdown, which is just, going back and watching that play is just nuts. It's it's like watching you don't see tight ends and wide receivers make cuts like that.
No.
and
Did you
stay on
see?
their
You saw
feet.
Dalton Schultz like teach me how to tiptoe
Yeah.
on the line.
That was hilarious on the sideline. That's so. And again, I tweeted this out, but shout out to to
Yeah.
Donovan Wilson for that incredible block that he made to spring it. But yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I think it just shows you. We had hopes for what we thought this kind of defensive line would look like when you had everybody back, and we potentially could run like what's referred to often as a NASCAR package. But we didn't really know exactly how good Demarcus Lawrence would be at it. I think the thing that it harkens back to me, Marcus, is I don't know if you remember, but there was a couple years ago at training camp where Demarcus Lawrence would line up in every single gap and go against every single offensive lineman. And he was basically sunning everybody who wasn't named Tyron Smith or Zach Martin.
Yep.
And I think that it really shows you, that he clearly has had that skill set for a long time, and now he's being asked to use it, and it's really paying off for the Cowboys.
All right, I got one more question for you about the defense, and this kind of ties into Michael Parsons, which we can talk about because he was really good in this game as well.
Yeah.
I've noticed the last couple of weeks that the Cowboys seem to like to keep the trio of Parsons, Gregory, and Lawrence on the field at the same time. And when they rotate, they kind of take all three off, almost like a hockey shift. And then the next
Like
group in is Dorrance Armstrong, Basham, Osa. Do we think when they get into the playoffs that kind of rotation will continue, or do you think we'll see them kind of mix and match to always have, let's say, two of those guys on the field?
And it's a good question. I think that they've done a really good job of mix and matching personnel, especially on key third down situations. They've been deploying kind of a 5-0 defensive line look, and the guys that they put on there it's weird, man. Like they'll put Basham and Armstrong on the inside. They'll put Osa outside at defensive end, and I guess this is all a long-winded way of saying I don't think that they're necessarily going to be pigeonholed into going one line or this line versus that. I think they're probably doing that now just to kind of have some order there. But I think that once.
But do you think it's that, or do you think it's they like to have guys work next to the same player so that way they can build some chemistry? Because, for example,
that could be it.
We saw Demarcus Lawrence and Tyrone Crawford for years play together and next to each other. When they were next to each other, they were excellent at running stunts. They just had a great feel for it. They knew, where each other was going to be at. I wonder if that's part of it as well.
That's a very good point. I mean, I think that kind of chemistry and knowing the guy that's playing next to you is really important, especially when you're talking about twists and stunts, because there's so much kind of subtlety there, right? And just understanding body language and understanding how the guy next to you is leveraged and to know, okay, this is the time that I can make my move around him. So I think that there is probably some solid points there. I think that, they clearly have a group of guys that have played a lot with each other. And that trio of Parsons, Gregory, and D-Law, they really haven't played a ton of snaps next to each other, except for recently. So maybe the idea is that to try to get more and more of these snaps together so that they can get even better at working together in those schemes. Because as you were implying, Basham and Armstrong and these guys that are kind of the other down rod, Osa, the guys who have been basically on the team and healthy for almost the entire season, they have tons of snaps with each other. They have a lot of chemistry. They've been doing this together for a while. So I think that's a solid point.
All right, let's talk about the offense, Landon. I don't feel like there's a ton of big takeaways here, but one of the biggest ones I had was it's pretty clearly the Cowboys used more up-tempo in this game. I think they had a concerted effort to do that. And my thought was it's a couple things. Was it to get Dak Prescott in rhythm? I think the answer is probably yes. But I also think part of it was Washington just got done playing a game on Tuesday night, and they were running in a bunch of new players and stuff. So why not keep the pace up a little bit and try to run them off the field? But it worked. So I just wonder if we'll see that more going forward.
I hope so. I just think that they, even in the game, the post-game interviews with all the guys, they all talked about it.
Yeah.
They all talked about how they like to keep pace. They all talked about how they like to go up tempo. It takes the thinking out of it. It takes the, a lot of the kind of difficult part of playing football out of it, because that's where you're really kind of just operating in a kind of rhythm that you have gotten after running those plays over and over again. You're not trying to re-examine the plays. It's 3-step drops. It's getting the ball out quick. It's lining up fast and running the play, not having to think about it. I think all those things really help the Cowboys, and I also think that it's they're having a lot more success when they're able to find efficient ways to get easy yardage on first and second down. And I think that being in a rhythm, being in in the quick game, being in a situation where you're up tempo, you're getting up on the line, you're snapping, you know what play you're running. I think it's just a great way for them to take the who is it? Is it Nate? Is it I was trying to think who was this. Is it the I'm flailing here, but somebody kept talking about the fact that the Cowboys needed to press the easy button more. They needed to take Nate Tice. That's what I was trying to say. Yes, Nate Tice keep talking about that, and I couldn't agree more. I feel like the increase in motion, the increase in up tempo. This was them getting back to adding the kind of sauce that we had seen earlier in the year for this offense that made managing early downs easy, and it really helped you open things up later in the downs if you wanted to kind of do more down the field stuff.
They're at their best, Landon, when it's like first down is a 7-yard pass to Dalton Schultz. Second and down and 3 is a run to Ezekiel Elliott, and you either get a first down or it's 3rd and 1. And now we can take a shot on 3rd and 1 down the field. Or, hey, it's a new set of downs. Let's take a shot to Michael or to CeeDee Lamb across the middle for 15. Like, that's when they're at their best, is like just staying way, way ahead of the chains.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, what you're starting to see now, is that they're starting to add back in some of that stuff that kind of, like I said, it makes life a lot easier. So
it also helps when Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard are healthier. Like, that also really helps, because I thought in this game Zeke looked not 100% healthy, but healthier than he has in the last 2 months. And you've noticed it in a couple things, like he turns a 1-yard gain into 3. Okay, that's fine. But now instead of a 2nd and 9, it's 2nd and 7, and you can run the ball again, or you can run the little play action rollout to Schultz and get a first down. Like, that definitely helps.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, I think that it gives you more opportunity. I mean, we talked about, look, one of the other things that I had notes on was that we saw more 4 verts. We saw more attacking of the seam. We saw more down the field throws. I don't think that that's coincidental that you saw that at the same time that you started to see the increase in tempo, the increase in motion, and the run game working more, because when things are working better on the upfront part of the down, you have more opportunity to take the shots down the field, because first of all, the defense is going to open up to you to try to stop what you're doing early in the downs. Second of all, you get into more advantageous positions to, if you aren't successful in your downfield throw, to still convert that right down and still get that extra yardage. So it all kind of feeds into each other in a large way. But the good news is the Cowboys seem to kind of be feeding. It's like a positive feedback loop now that they're getting, right? Because they're doing the easy things. It's making the early part of the downs easier, which is making them more comfortable taking shots down the field, which is making them more explosive, which is making the early part of the downs easier. So that's and it can go the other way, and it was for the Cowboys previously earlier in the month, but they've done a really good job of turning that around and just kind of taking the easy things and then allowing that to turn into bigger, more explosive plays down the road.
The last little point I would make about the offense is this game against Washington was like the perfect way for the Cowboys to use their 3 receivers, right? Like, Amari Cooper's the wide receiver 1, and he gets the most targets, and he's going to be pretty efficient on those targets, and he's going to convert first downs. Yep. CeeDee Lamb is your field stretcher in the middle, through the seam, and he took some big shots, but he can create those explosive plays, the 15 to 20-yard catches. And then Michael Gallup is your downfield threat. And when you need to create a big, chunk play down the field, he can do that. He had a 40-yard catch in this one. No player got a ton of targets. Nobody ended up with more than 85 receiving yards, but like, that's what makes this offense so difficult to stop, is when you can't just keep on even 2 receivers, when all 3 of the guys are making plays. And then you get contributions from Dalton Schultz, who had 82 yards, and Malik Turner, who had 82 yards, and Cedric Wilson, who had a couple catches. Like, that's when they're really tough to beat.
Yeah, and I think one other thing that I wanted to really point out that I thought that was really kind of good at as a bonding agent, really, for the rest of the offense was the return of the success of the waggle. I think that is it's a play that they probably run 3 or 4 times a game, but it's so important in kind of marrying the run game with the play action pass game. And it's a way that the Cowboys produce easy, big chunk plays, because and previously we've been talking about the last few weeks, they've really struggled with it. They've either Dak was late trying to get the throw out. He had a couple interceptions on him. He didn't necessarily look comfortable throwing off his calf, and that kind of limited his ability to get the ball to that deeper read and those crosser routes. But I think that what we saw was the kind of return of that. I think that one of the most important completions that I put in my notes here was that waggle pass to CeeDee Lamb with 5 minutes left to go in the first. I just felt like that was a really good indicator that the offense is back healthy and that Dak is comfortable kind of making that throw. I mean, rolling left, having to throw off of his right foot and to try to get it over the top and into the deeper route. CD had to go up and get it, but that's fine. I mean, that's kind of where you want to put it, so it's a safe spot for the receiver. But I thought that was just a really good indication that the offense is kind of in a healthier state than it had been previously, let's say the last month.
All right. I wanted to do one more thing on the show before we head out. I wanted to talk about John Madden passing away on Tuesday night, because I'm sure you feel the same way I did, Landon, but John Madden is really one of the biggest reasons I love football, because I grew up as a 90s kid watching Cowboy games with John Madden calling them. And I really actually remember John Madden a lot from Sunday and Monday Night Football, like doing those games. And whenever John Madden called a game, it felt important, right? And that doesn't even mention like the Madden football games that I played countless hours of growing up. So it really, really bummed me out that we heard about him yesterday passing, because he was somebody that I love so much. So I just like to hear your thoughts on John Madden and maybe some of your favorite John Madden memories.
I feel like I have a complicated relationship with John Madden, because, when he was announcing at the end, I was really tired of it, because I felt like he was explaining things that was over explaining things, and that it was just, I just felt it was annoying. But as I got older, what I realized is that he taught all of us, the game of football, and whether it was in those moments where he was describing what was happening with an X's and O's, whether it was them taking a second to go to the sideline to see what kind of weirdness somebody was doing, and then John making fun of that, whether it was
butt sweat or whatever.
I was going to say Larry Allen's butt sweat, or the way how ugly defensive linemen are, or the eating habits, or
the Thanksgiving, the turducken,
the Thanksgiving, right? The Thanksgiving broadcasts are just like that's American television gold. And then you mentioned it, like the other side of that, which he was involved in, and it's his name, so it's part of this legend was the game, was this Madden the game. I mean, it wasn't even just about X's and O's there; it was more about trying to understand what team building was. And look, like Madden is not a good. The game is not a good example of exactly how you should build your teams. I mean, obviously, we all knew the tricks. We all knew how to. But it got us interested, right? Like it got us
not only that, but you have how many play callers in the league that probably grew up playing Madden, and I honestly think that's a big reason why you're seeing people be more aggressive, is because they're used to that style of football, right? Like I know Brandon Staley has talked about it. Like, he grew up in the Madden era, and when you would play Madden online, it was frustrating when your opponent would go for it on fourth down all the time, because it was so hard to stop. And you've got to believe that that's impacted football in at least some way, right? Like,
absolutely,
it's incredible Madden's impact that he had from coaching or from playing, from coaching, from announcing to creating, one of the most successful video games in video game history. It's really incredible.
Well, I mean, I think that GMs became more of a superstar, celebrity position because of Madden, because all of us were at home trying to be GMs on Madden at home. So, yeah, I mean, I think his contribution to the sport that we love and to the league that we watch is incalculable, and it's frankly as much as any individual has contributed to the sport, probably ever. So his loss is tremendous. Obviously, he had lived an incredible life, and he has had an incredible influence on many of us. And I hope he rests in power, because he really was a positive influence in all of our lives.
Yeah, we are forever in debt to John Madden for all that he's done for the football world. He's made the game so much better. I can't even imagine the number of football fans that he made by himself, between the video games, between announcing. It's incredible. So John Madden, 85 years old. What an awesome life. It's pretty awesome. So, all right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow we'll have a crossover with Bo Brock and Alex Clancy of Locked On Cardinals.
Great.
And you and I will be back on Friday to preview this matchup. And boy, that's going to be a really fun one. The last kind of big game for the Cowboys before they go into the playoffs. We'll make sure we have a lot of fun with that. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. You can download the podcast wherever you've been downloading your podcasts. Please check us out on YouTube. Follow Landon at McCool BCB. I am at Marcus _Mosher. And we'll see you guys next time.